What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for a couple of quick conversations that I wanted to have regarding some interesting articles that I came across and that I wanted to talk about here on my channel. So the first article that I came across that I thought was really interesting was regarding a young lady by the name of Michelle Zacking or Michelle Zaching. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but it's Zaccching. And I think another article had her name with an O at the end, so I'm not quite sure exactly how it's spelled. But she's 34 years old from Ontario, Canada. Now, her story is that when she was in her late teens, early 20s, she was going through a mental health crisis. She had attempted to self-harm and she sought out professional help, which I'm so glad that she did. So she sought professional help, and when she was about 21 years old, she began to question her gender identity. So in 2010, she attends a support group where the therapist had recommended hormone therapy. Now, the thing about that is that the therapist had only one appointment with Michelle and had spoken to her for no more than an hour and had already concluded that she needed to have hormone therapy. In 2012, Michelle is referred for a double mastectomy as she begins her transitioning process from female to male. So she has a double mastectomy in 2012, 2016. Michelle stops taking testosterone and she begins to identify as non-binary. In 2017, Michelle is diagnosed with autism, ADHD, MDD, and some PTSD. Another professional, mental health care professional, refers Michelle for a hysterectomy, which is done successfully in 2018. 2020, Michelle reflects on what's been happening to her and decides that she wants to detransition, which means to go back to being female. Michelle believes that if she had not been encouraged to transition to begin with, she would have eventually had accepted the gender that she was assigned to at birth, which was female. So when I read the article, Michelle talks a lot about how there's this segment in our societies where there are people who have transitioned and who are no longer happy with the outcome of their transition and want to go back to their previous gender, or for whatever reason, they're just not happy with the fact that they ended up transitioning. And the article implies that when these people are seeking professional help, that they are encouraged to do something that may not be the best option for them. And the medical profession that deals with gender identity and transitioning from one gender to the next, according to the article that I read and according to Michelle, the medical community tends to not really shine a lot of light on the people who had gender reassignment surgery, but are now having second thoughts about it. And these people are sort of like ostracized in the LGBTQIA community, because the whole thing is what we have learned and what we have seen is that for a lot of people who do suffer through gender identity crisis, that once they are able to transition to the gender that they most identify with, that this is supposed to be the solution, and this is supposed to be, the key to happiness. But there are people who go through the process and are not happy with it. And the implication is that, or the allegation is that maybe not all healthcare professionals are necessarily equipped to handle these type of situations, these type of mental crisis, or they don't have the full education or the full training to do so, because, like I said, one of the healthcare professionals that Michelle had seen when she was attending her group therapy had only met with her one time and spoke to her for less than an hour and had decided that she needed to get on hormone therapy. So In conclusion, because Michelle feels like she was severely misguided by her healthcare professionals, her mental health care professionals, and misdiagnosed, she has now filed a lawsuit against 8 different doctors and mental health care professionals. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this case plays out and what type of statement this case will make on the community that deals with people who are transitioning from one gender to the next, and the possibility that not all of those stories necessarily have a happy ending. And what do we do with people who have gone through gender reassignment but are no longer happy with the gender that they transitioned to and would like to go back to the gender that they were assigned to at birth? That's going to be a very interesting case. Let's move on. Let's talk about Scott Adams. So Scott Adams is the creator of the comic strip Dilbert. Now, I remember when I was younger, when newspapers were, very, very common, and this is way before the internet, way before cell phones. I remember my dad would always get, like clockwork, he never missed. He would always get the Sunday paper, the way a lot of people would. And I would go through the Sunday paper, pull out the comics, and just enjoy the rest of my Sunday evening reading all the comics. And I definitely remember the comic strip of Dilbert. Now that was really centered around, now it wasn't the one that I liked the most because it was more for like, adult humor, office place humor, work humor. And as a little kid, I just wanted to go to, what was it, like Charlie Brown and Lucy. And I think, so Dilbert wasn't like my favorite, but I do remember that comic strip. And Dilbert was extremely popular. There was merchandise based on Dilbert. It was seen in over 1,000 publications across the country. And they even made a television show about it. I think it was a cartoon. I want to say it came on Fox, but don't quote me on that. But it even became a television show, but it only lasted for 1 year. So Dilbert made the creator, Scott Adams, a lot of money. It was a very, very popular comic strip. Well, Mr. Scott Adams has found himself in some hot water. He has an online show called Real Coffee with Scott Adams. And on this show, he has said some very problematic things. Adams said that Black people are a hate group, and he cites a recent Rasmussen survey, which, he said, shows that nearly half of all Black people do not agree with the phrase, "it's okay to be white." He further went on to say that the best advice that he would give to white people is to get the hell away from Black people. He said it doesn't make sense for white people to try to help Black people, and that he is going to back off on being helpful to Black America because it just doesn't pay off. This man said these things on a public forum, on a public platform. He said these things. Now, I've always said, people are going to feel how they feel. They're going to believe how they believe. But you need to have the wherewithal to know how to get along in society and to know what to say and what not to say. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you think. You cannot say certain things on public platforms or in public, period, because you're going to offend a lot of people. And no one should be subjected to hearing things about them that is centered on things that they cannot change. If you don't like Black people, what do you want that Black person to do? They can't become another race. They cannot stop being Black. So why constantly try to say hurtful things about someone over things that they simply cannot change? You know what I'm saying? So it's racist. It's extremely racist. It's awful. It's offensive. And I'm just amazed that someone who created a very successful business for himself thinks this way. I mean, he was smart enough to have a comic strip that became extremely popular and made him a whole lot of money. He was smart enough to do that. But then it's like somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened. He said these really awful things. And so a lot of these publications are pulling Dilbert from their newspapers. A lot of newspapers are like, okay, we're not going to deal with this. So his comic strip is going to go bye-bye from a lot of publications. Now, I was like, when I was reading the article, I was kind of like thinking to myself, there are still major newspapers out there, like actual newspapers. That was amazing to me because I know that where I live, there were two really big actual newspapers. One of them went bye-bye a long time ago, maybe like 20 years ago now. And the one that's remaining, I don't know how. I remember the Sunday paper used to be really, really thick, and it would have a lot of the sale, like the coupons and the little sales papers and stuff like that. It used to be really, really thick. Now, I remember the last time that I saw the Sunday paper, which could have been maybe 10 years ago or more, it's very emaciated. It's very, very thin. And I'm just surprised that there's enough newspapers out there to make an impact on Scott Adams when his comic strip is pulled out. Like, I had no idea that newspapers were still running strong like that. So a lot of these publications don't want to deal with him anymore. They're dropping his comic strip. He's experiencing a lot of backlash online. And about his television show, Dilbert, that lasted from 1999 to 2000. It lasted one season. Adams says that his show was canceled because he was white. Not because of low ratings or the competition just squashed him. He says the show was canceled because he was white. Well, what about the creators of the other shows that were also white that stayed on and have been on for years, like The Simpsons, for example? Anywho, so yeah, Dilbert has gone bye-bye. Dilbert's daddy, we're gonna have to put him in the corner. He's been a very bad boy, and he needs to reflect on the things that he said. And I don't think he's gonna apologize. In fact, I think I had read that he was completely unapologetic about what he said. He feels like he has the right to say whatever he wants. So let's just move on to my next topic of conversation. Let's talk about Liam Neeson. So the actor Liam Neeson from the very successful Taken franchise, he was on The View to promote his 100th film, Marlowe. So when he was sitting backstage, he was watching the women on The View, do their thing on camera, and they were talking about gun violence. So he was really looking forward to getting on stage with the ladies and basically congratulating them on talking about a very important topic. Well, when he gets to the table to sit down with the rest of the crew, he's surprised that they're not going to talk about gun violence or anything else of importance. He has to sit there and be subjected to Joy Behar gushing over him because she's had this 15-year crush on Liam Neeson. And the whole time that he was on the segment, the only thing they talked about was Joy Behar's crush on Liam Neeson. And she just kept on, just like gushing all over him, talking about it made him feel so uncomfortable. It was Joy being Joy, and maybe it was entertaining for a lot of people, but it was unentertaining to Liam Neeson. And he said that he was very, very uncomfortable. He felt very embarrassed. One of the most cringy things that she said was that when she dies, she wanted her ashes sprinkled over Liam Neeson. Why would you say that, Joy? Why would that be remotely pleasing to anybody, to have somebody's ashes sprinkled all over them? Like, what are you talking about, Joy? So she had gone way too far. I don't know if Joy Behar even noticed how embarrassed he was or how uncomfortable he was, but it seems like, she just kept on going and going and going, and they never got to talking about anything that he was interested in talking about. So he has vowed to never return to The View again. So The View was just not viewing for Mr. Liam Neeson. Thank you so much for joining me for this really quick conversation. On your way out, do not forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.